All right, before anything else, maybe just shake out your hands, moving your shoulders, fixing your things. And then we're going to start today by oming in. So we're going to do 3 ohms. Bring your hands to heart center, your thumbs touching your breastbone. Close your eyes, and with your eyes closed, root down to the ground and lift up through the crown of your head. And maybe already just choose someone to dedicate your class to. And then empty your breath. Let's take an inhale together for 3 ohms. Release your hands. And we're going to start with a wide knee child's pose with a twist. So you take your knees as wide as they go. Bring your big toes to touch. Your hips come down to your heels. And then walk your hands forward first, stretching long. Let's take a couple of breaths here. You can even sigh out a couple breaths or make it a little dramatic. And then lift up your head, come up onto your elbows, and you're going to thread your right hand behind your left elbow and bring your right ear down to the ground. And this might be just enough for you. Or maybe you want a little bit more of a twist and you stretch your left arm up, bend your elbow, and let your arm wrap around behind you. It's of course particularly handy if you're not wearing a one piece. You can tuck your shirt back down. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just side out. So feel yourself after you found the right position for your body. You let your whole body become as soft as possible, just really engaging and just enough to keep the posture, enough yang. And then taking that small internal shift to be willing to stay. And to be willing to stay through it being uncomfortable, annoying, boring, delightful. But not compromising, like if you're in pain and you need to come out of the posture, come out of the posture. Today, we are focusing on the liver and the gallbladder. Where the liver is the yin organ, as the gallbladder is the yang organ. But to me, this always feels like one of the most masculine yin organs, or most yang like yin organ. It's so, it's such an active, I mean, all of our organs are active, come on. But it's such an active organ that has a verb as its name. Like our heart isn't called like hearting or loving. I guess that would be lover, liver, no. But the liver gets this verb feeling to it, that which lives. And then unwind your arms. You're going to keep your knees exactly where they were. Come up to your elbows again, and then thread your left arm behind your right elbow. Bring your left ear to the ground. Maybe stretch up your right arm, maybe not. And then bend your elbow. You'll feel that your arm just wraps behind you. And it's surprisingly passive and more relaxed here than stretching it straight up. For some of us, we can actually tuck our fingers into the inside of our left thigh. Reacquaint yourself with the shape. Soften into it. The liver and the gallbladder pair are connected to the element of wood, which in our Western four elements, we don't have anything that's analogous to the wood. But in the five elements, in the Taoist tradition, it's wood. Now in the Dagara tradition, that fifth one is nature. And both with wood and nature, there is this element of the archetype of growth. Of being alive. And one of the biggest jobs of our liver from this Taoist perspective is that it ensures the smooth flow of qi in our body, the smooth flow of our energy body, our life force body. Notice if you are holding back. We often have an impulse when we've done postures before, or it starts getting intense, we pull back in order, like merely as if to protect ourselves from feeling really exactly where we are. So with these last couple breaths, maybe just emotionally even lean into it. What's coming up, where the sensations lie. And you're going to unwind and just is closer to. We can call this embryo pose or seed pose. And roll up. Cross your ankles, roll over your crossed ankles. And then roll over your crossed ankles again. It's like Rachel says. So before we're going to actually come into shoelace pose. So the really nice way to get to it is come onto your hands and knees. And then take your right knee and thread it in front of your left knee. And then you actually even try to walk your toes a little bit wider, like a little bit closer to your face, and then sit down. Whew, okay. And you can make the small adjustments, kind of feel both your sit bones. If you need to, you can always sit on like some books or a block. You can even take your hands next to your hips and lift up your butt and just slide your booty back. This gives you a little bit more space then to walk your hands forward. And at first you just drop your, chin to your chest, and then your forehead to your knee, and then your chin goes in front of your knee, if that's available to you. Or for some people, they lay their chest right down on their knees. And don't worry, they have other problems. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, sigh it out. Allow these first couple of breaths in a pose to reacquaint yourself with the posture, how it is today, in the body you have now, with the feelings you have now and the thoughts you have now. Notice the quality of your breath. In our yin practice, we don't do like an all-out, like Darth Vader, Ujjayi breath. But you can have like a soft Ujjayi, is what Sarah Power calls it. Gentle victory. You could think of it, because like Ujjayi breath is the victorious breath. But maybe even, even in, humility, there's a different, it's not a victorious, like a victory where you're like, yeah, look at me, look how cool I am. It's instead this quiet internal congruency of my truth is aligned with my actions and my purpose and my way and to serve the world, or this congruency of knowing kind of your moral framework and able to act courageously within that. So the liver is, in traditional Chinese medicine, they talk about the liver being the seat of the soul. And in this context, the soul is defined as a part of us that keeps coming back from lifetime to lifetime, the red thread of our different lives. In occult physiology, in the esoteric mysteries, the liver is connected to Jupiter. And for us, we know Jupiter, the planet, but at least I'll speak for myself. We don't go to the Roman nomenclature of like, oh, the Jupiter, the god. Instead, we actually have more familiarity, or I have more familiarity with Zeus. So you could also think of this archetypal connection to Zeus. And you're probably going, hey, Eddie, Zeus, this intensity of my hips right now isn't making me think of any cosmology. So with your inhale, roll up. And if you're not at the like top of your mat, like you probably should have been, you can make your way there in a weird little butt scooch. Yes, I said it. And then unwrap your right leg, keeping your left knee front. And tuck your right under, and we're setting up for pigeon here. So you have your left shin, and one teacher talks about how actually you want to align it so your hips are going straight forward. Yeah. And if you need to, you can put a block underneath your buttocks. Or if you don't have one handy, you can bend your back knee and let your left buttocks come to the ground. And then walk your arms forward. Touch through the inside of your. You can stick your form and put your forehead on your hands, or you can stretch your arms out. Take a full inhale and with your exhale, just sigh it out. Now, Jupiter is one of the brightest lights in our skies. And right now we have this beautiful display of Jupiter and Venus in the evening sky that we can see with the naked eye. And the body, like the planet Jupiter, is really big and expansive. And apparently, this is new little tidbit I just found out today that changes not so much for me. But there are rings to Jupiter, we just can't see them. But it's got something like 80 moons. 80 moons. Wow, I know. Notice the part of the pose that you're holding back from. Maybe just take a couple breaths, really allowing your attention at least to linger there, or to soften there, or land there. But the god Jupiter or Zeus, like both of them, they have also that nature of like, Zeus got in everywhere. I mean, how many kids do we have? Getting in trouble everywhere. So many like dramas. But in our body, the liver doesn't literally get in everywhere, but it protects us from things that come from everywhere. And not just toxins we eat through our mouth, but even stuff we absorb through our skin. The liver filters and detoxes our blood. That does go throughout our whole system and does get everywhere. So it does have this, our blood actually more than our liver itself has this expansion, like, like when you break the skin, the blood wants to leave the body. Yeah, I mean, think about how a tree grows, right? The tree has to root down to rise up. It expands along like the periphery of its trunk. It expands up, it expands down in every direction. We can even see the tree in the branching of our veins, our arteries. So when we think of these forces of life, of our chi, of our energy, of our beingness, we also want to invite it to our peripheries to meet the world. With your next inhale, start to walk your hands back behind you, back towards you. That's going to be easier. And then you roll onto your left buttocks and ta-da, one of my favorite moves. You're all ready for the next gesture here, the next posture. So you have your heel in front of your groin. And this is not a move we see that often, but you're just going to go straight forward. So you might just be able to walk your hands out a little bit and drop your head, or maybe you can lay flat on the ground. I really did that. You can lay flat on the ground. Feel your heel pushing into your belly button. I mean, it's there. I just like it when these things line up. It just seems so meant to be. Like when you get to touch your foot to the back of your head, like they're shaped nearly the same way. It's like they belong together. Get to know the pose. Take a couple breaths. Feel like you can soften or drop into it, or use the right accoutrements so that happens. For me, there's something about this being alive and the liver and this capacity. Like sometimes when we get fearful, or we get when we're full of doubt, we hold back even more than normal from sharing things or risking things or taking a step even. And so to me, the liver is so intimately connected with this capacity to move further beyond yourself. So whether you connect it to this idea of becoming more who we are every day, or becoming more closer to embodying Christ consciousness, or coming more closer to embodying your Buddha nature, being ultimately just super like self-expressed and kind and generous. Like these are all motions that I, when I'm talking with my hands, I want to move my hands outward. And, the act of it too is the same thing of like giving forth and coming to where your edge is. So whether that is in emotional growth, whether it's in, growing virtues like our being patient or being generous or kind even, which is the virtue connected to our liver. We act out of this higher nature of who do we want to be. We allow our will to ignite our action rather than just our kind of pettiness in engaging or enforcing a reaction. And then inhale, start to walk your hands back towards you, and you're going to twist a couple times and start to bow over your right extended leg, letting your head hang, softening into it. So getting heavy rather than pushing. Feel the quality of your breath. Notice the quality of your attention. Notice where your attention goes. And maybe redirect your attention to become more active in your ability to observe rather than judge. So our liver is like known for detoxing, like everybody knows that. But what we forget, or what isn't as common knowledge, is that the liver is also what like ultimately assists in the repair and building back up of our body as well. And what a curiosity if we think about how kindness works, how kindness actually builds up something in us, and often something in the person who one is aiming the kindness towards. And then inhale, roll up. And then just you can either stay where you are, or if you want a little bit of movement, sometimes it just feels nice to move in between yin poses. You can bring the bottoms of your feet together, and we're going to transition into butterfly. So bringing your feet together about 2 hands length away from your groin. Now, if you are really open in your hips and you want to have your knees closer, you're totally welcome to. Grab onto your shins, lift up your chest, take an inhale, and then with your exhale, roll forward. Letting yourself soften into the yinness of the pose. Letting your head hang with your feet. You know, some people have the challenge of being too flexible or super flexible. And so in that case, it's actually sometimes more of a struggle to feel things in yin poses. So if that's something that you're experiencing, you can always put blocks underneath your feet here. And then it actually allows your hips to open up even more. You can see, I see this so often, like in a yoga class, like I teach a lot of the hot yoga and vinyasa and stuff, and especially in the hot yoga, the Bikram style yoga, like people are so familiar with it, they can go through the motions, but you can kind of see that they're not there, and they're not really um efforting, they're not really pushing towards their edge. And inevitably I've taken, I've been that student before, days where you feel like, oh, and you're so like busy with something. But quickly you learn that actually you're the one that suffers from not really showing up, from not trying to see where is your edge today, to meeting that edge, that challenge. And I think with the liver and the gallbladder in yin practice, we're so much more focused on like being chill and being cool and soft. And so connecting this release motion to activity in our body and our being that is life-giving and very young seems a little strange. So with yin, we've talked before about how it affects like your tendons, the parts of your body that hold the bones together. And part of what is so practical and useful about a yin practice is it's nearly as if by stretching these denser parts of your body, you're liberating energy that you are holding on to. that you're constricted with, holding back even. That's why I even bother, giving someone a cue if they're really flexible, how to get more out of the pose. Because for all of us, whether we are, stiff as a board or a rubber band gummy as a rubber band, we want to be at our edge because that's the place where something of interest happens. Even back to the woods with the element of wood here. It's this periphery where the field meets the wood that is the most diverse, that has the most activity in it. It's that edge. And when do we feel most alive? When we've been in a risky situation, we nearly die. Or, when we have that, that thrill and, scare or shock. But often people can react by feeling most alive then. Take a full inhale with your exhale, just sigh it out. And then roll up. And cross your ankles and come up onto your hands and knees. If you just need a little wiggle release, you can do a wiggle shaky cow. Oh yeah. Releasing the feelings. And then bring your left knee in front of your right knee. Open up your feet, trying to bring your feet towards your hands. You won't be able to get them very far. And then roll onto your butt. Ta-da! Maybe even lift up your seat, scoot your butt back a little bit more, and then start to bow forward, whatever that is for you. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. Notice your edges and maybe try being a little sweeter with your limits, with your limitations. It's like at our edges, this place of growth. Newness has a fragileness to it. Even though like the blade of grass, that thin, fragile blade of grass can pierce the crust of the earth, it's still so vulnerable to any like heavy rain or foot. So even in places where we decide to take a slightly different route than we do every other time, in these places where we challenge ourselves and rise to the occasion to meet our edge, it's that vulnerability that enlivens our experience of it. Like maybe you get butterflies in your stomach, maybe your knees feel all wobbly. In those really dramatic places where you're trying, you're stretching. With your next exhale, sigh it out and dare to drop just a little bit deeper. And then with your next inhale, roll up. And you can just, well, you might have to do that word scoot, 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 scoot. If you did it on the other side. There you are. And then take your left leg behind you, so your right knee's in front of you. And you want your right thigh about like 30 degrees, 40 degrees. Point through your left toes. The good alignment will allow you that you can actually usually lift up your hands. And then start to walk your hands forward, going straight into sleeping swan. You can have your arms stacked with your forehead on your forearms. Or you can stretch your arms straight forward in prayer. What's cool is like we feel this, this tingling or this prana, this life force, or the excitement of, meeting an edge or standing up to a challenge. But I'm noticing also that sometimes you'll get it as feedback. You all know, I've been studying astrology, and it's so funny to me. I was like, oh, I'm never going to go back to school or study anything again. But I am so energized around studying astrology. And one of the feedbacks that I feel in my body is that I nearly feel like that trembling sensation of excitement when, beginning of a class or talking about astrology with some people. It sounds so cheesy, but it's it has this vibrancy for me, which is also kind of, it's information that shows me, reaffirms for me, there's something life-giving in my relationship to astrology because of that excitement, because of this expanding nature. And it's not, Jupiter or Zeus, the Greek name, he's the god in charge. He's like the big deal. The person that each one of our sovereignty, our royal beingness is connected to, where it's like that king part, this royal part of you is the one who is making decisions for all elements of you, for your whole life. This part of us that has such authority. Then when we act from that part, things around us show the repercussions. The director, the general. We can have lots of nice ideas, but how are we bringing it to life on Earth? There's an expression that I really don't use, but it's like the rubber hitting the road, and this idea of how do you make something take off? How do you make something in reality, in truth, how does it come to life and grow? What is it fed with? What is it watered with? Where are the supports for that growth? It's actually Bernie Clark, he's a world-renowned yin yoga teacher. And he makes this really great case about, like especially for yogis and practitioners, that like don't get so comfortable and so self-accommodating, or patterned to treat yourself as fragile, because you want to be vulnerable, but you don't want to be fragile. You want to have resilience. You want to be able to have the capacity to take the right risks, to have courage to do the things that makes your voice shake. We don't want to foster this victimhood, this that's the same thing. It's still a victim, but this fragile, incapable, authority-less being, because we have our authority. We are creators. So we don't allow our practice to be so lopsided in comfort that when, the pillows aren't right on the couch, we like get our little panties into a bunch and we feel like it's being done to us. It's an extreme example, but the same thing can be true in emotional things or in relationships. Notice if you can soften a little bit more into the sensation. And yes, you might find sometimes that's like, no, I'm not going to. And this is why you have your own authority. It's important. And then with your next inhale, start to walk your hands up towards your shoulders, lift up your chest. And this time, we're going to roll onto our right buttocks. Ta-da! But I'll flip it around so I can see you. Nice. So we have about 90 degrees between the thighs. And you take the first one straight down the middle, so your heel can massage your belly button, physically or energetically. Allow your next couple of breaths to really soften your body, your attention. It's so great, right? Because like all the tough guys, I want to say guys, yeah, I'm so old fashioned, but all the tough people are like, ooh, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to like lift up a heavier weight, or I'm going to, build a bigger tower. I'm going to do all of these like manly power strength things. But in our own practices, we might notice that actually softening takes so much more courage than clenching your mouth and clenching your muscles and trying not to feel. But to soften into a place that you're going to feel sensation, that also takes this other kind of courage, which is, I feel like there's a lot, like, I don't know about your neighborhood, but in my neighborhood, I use that term loosely, but it's so popular to be doing, weightlifting and power training and triathlon, man, steel buns shaping thing, effecta. Like there's so many of this, like, yeah. And then when you have these heart-to-heart talks with people, they're like, yeah, I can bench press this and do that, but like what gets me are my feelings, my emotions, my relationships, my childhood. Like we're missing places to act out of courage in understanding and digesting and transforming our trauma. not just muscling through it. Notice where you can let go and drop down a little bit more. Maybe it's just relaxing your tongue. And then start to roll up and take a little twisty twist. And bow over your left down to your knee. Take a full inhale. With your exhale, just sigh it out. Maybe letting your exhale moan out or sound out a little bit will help you soften, dropping closer to the sensations. And then roll up. Stretch both your legs out in front of you. You can even like wiggle them around. If you felt like it was a little short, you're always welcome to do it longer. And then just let your hands slide out and lie down. And then hug your knees up. We're just going to do a cleansing twist. So we're not going to take 5 minutes on each side. So pull your knees to your chest and then let your knees come to your left-hand side, keeping your knees as high as your hips. Turn your gaze either to the ceiling or to your right. Take a full inhale. With your exhale, just sigh it out. Let's finish with a little poem from Goethe. Unfortunately, I don't have the German version in front of me, even though all the people who are live in this moment would understand it. But so we'll go for a translation. Tell a wise person or else keep silent, because the common man will mock it right away. I praise what is truly alive, what longs to be burnt to death. In the calm water of love nights, where you were begotten, where you have begotten, a strange feeling comes over you when you see the silent candle burning. Now you are no longer caught in the obsession with darkness, and a desire for higher lovemaking sweeps you forward. Distance does not make you falter. Now, arriving in magic, flying, and finally insane for the light, you are the butterfly and you are gone. As long as you haven't experienced this, to die and so to grow, you are only a troubled guest on this dark earth. Hug your knees back to center. And then roll your knees to your right. Keeping your knees as high as your hips. Take a full inhale with your exhale, just sigh it out. And then roll yourself back to center and find your way to Shavasana. You should have a blanket handy. Maybe get an assistant to put a blanket on for you. Either way, take the time. Let your palms be open to receive. Close your eyes. With your next inhale, invite your breath to the edges of your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe wiggle your face around. Stretch your arms up over your head on your next inhale, reaching your whole body long. And on your exhale, curl into a ball and roll into a fetal position on your side. Take a couple breaths here and then help yourself up. Coming into a comfortable seated position. Now bring your hands to heart center. And today we're going to finish the class a little bit differently because we just did a whole class on Jupiter, known for being the teacher. So I'm going to say some words in Sanskrit that translate roughly to I bow to the great teacher within. And then together we're going to slam down onto the ground with our hands and say Jai. So bring your hands to heart center, lift yourself up, maybe even think of the person you dedicated your class to. Om Bolo Shri Satguru Bhagavan Ki. Jai. Woo! Yeah. The Jai really was probably enough to wake you up and make you here. But may you be amazing. Risk it. And so much love.